Have you noticed that English spelling is not very logical? I mean, there are silent letters, sometimes one sound may be spelled many different ways, and patterns of letters may have different sounds. It is hard to keep track of all these rules. In fact, Mark Twain once wrote a clever essay proposing a number of changes to American English spelling patterns. The heart of our trouble is with our foolish alphabet. It doesn't know how to spell and can't be taught. When we refer to all aspects of writing, including the spelling, the punctuation, the spacing, and special features such as boldface and italics, we are describing orthography. Let's now take a closer look at how English spelling developed. If teachers understand how the writing system works, they can better teach their students to use it too. Humans have used writing marks for communication for centuries. Many of the world's writing systems, including English, are alphabetic. This means one letter represents each sound. The first true alphabets weren't developed until the period between 1700 and 1500 BC, in areas bordering the Mediterranean. Merchants used writing to record business transactions. The earliest known writing system is cuneiform, invented by Sumerians living in Mesopotamia around 3300 BC. This system used marks made in clay to record the number of different kinds of items that the Sumerians traded. People who spoke many different languages could read the Sumerian cuneiform writing systems because pictures and symbols represented numbers and items. The writing system that developed in Egypt around 3200 BC, about the same time as cuneiform, was known as hieroglyphics. It was a bit different than the cuneiform writing because it included both pictures and marks that stood for sounds. Basically, it was a combination of pictographic writing and alphabetic writing. About 400 years later, another group of traders, the Phoenicians, introduced a smooth paper-like substance derived from the papyrus plant. Since writers no longer needed to press sticks into clay to make a symbol, linear writing was developed, and eventually, an alphabet with only 22 letters was introduced. The Phoenician writing system did not include any vowels. Based on the Phoenician alphabet, the Greeks developed an alphabet that included both consonants and vowels. Now a letter represented each sound in the language. This was to be the first true alphabet. In fact, the English word alphabet comes from the first two letters in the Greek writing system, alpha and beta. The Romans based their alphabet on the Greek, but added letters such as V, X, and Y to represent Latin sounds. The alphabet used for writing English is based on the Roman alphabet. Other alphabets include the Cyrillic alphabet, which is used in Russia, Arabic, Hebrew, and Devanagari, and a language that is spoken in India. Modern English developed over time. Changes in spelling and pronunciation occurred during three historical periods: Old English, Middle English, and Modern English. An examination of these changes helps us to understand our present spelling system. The Old English period dates from about 450 to 1100 BC. Irish missionaries used the Roman alphabet to write Old English. This alphabet was similar to Modern English, but it did not use the letters J, K, V, or W, and rarely used Q and Z. Additionally, they had other letters to represent sounds in the language. During the Old English period, some sounds were spelled much differently than how we spell them now. For example, the word folk was spelled F-O-L-C, and the word child was spelled C-I-L-D. The letters U and V were interchangeable, Also during this period, the sound of K was pronounced in words like ni. The Middle English period begins with the Norman conquest of England in 1066 and brought great changes to the language. From 1100 to 1500, many words were added from French and Latin, and many changes to the spelling of English words were introduced. It was during the Middle English period that OU was substituted for U to make English spelling more like French spelling. CW was replaced with QU. Also, HW spelling was changed to represent the actual sequence of sound to WH. The spelling in words like cough and laugh was introduced during Middle English period. English spelling has continued to change during the Modern English period, which extends from about 1500 to the present time. However, spelling stabilized due to a number of changes. The introduction of the printing press and several prominent spelling reformers called for consistency in spelling. As more books were produced with consistent spellings, these spellings became the norm. During the 1500s, a major change in pronunciation occurred. This period is known as the Great Vowel Shift. Gradually, words were being pronounced very differently than hundreds of years before. This is why some current spellings do not reflect the way the word is pronounced. Finally, Noah Webster wanted to create an American English language, one that was very different than the way English was spoken and written in England. He introduced the American Spelling Book. This was the first spelling textbook and it was widely used in public schools. It set the standards for American spelling, removing such British spelling as OUR from words like favor and color. Now that we understand the origins of the American English spelling system, how can we use this to our advantage when teaching spelling to our students? Well, one way to introduce homonyms to students is to make use of children's literature. Introducing how some words can sound the same but are spelled differently and mean different things is more fun when a student reads a book such as The King Who Reigned by Fred Gwynne or Marvin Turbin's 8-8, A Feast of Homonym Riddles. Another way to make sense of English spelling rules is to have your class study word histories. Students enjoy learning about word origins and how new words are introduced into our vocabularies. Word games such as jumbles and palindromes help students become aware of graphotactics. Graphotactics is the knowledge of possible combinations of letters in words. Having students write things they want others to read helps them become better spellers too. When students produce writing they are proud of and want to show off, they have a tendency to try and present it as well as they can. Students also need to understand that English spelling system does make logical sense and follows rules. Involving students in activities in which they collect words and try to make generalizations about the spellings and the rules is a great method for teaching them logic of English language. For example, students can be asked to investigate vowels, consonants, common case spellings, silent E, and consonant doubling, to name but a few ideas. Students can make a list of words that contain these letters or sounds and then find their commonalities. Then, they can generate rules based on their findings. When teachers and students better understand the history and rules of American English spelling, they not only become better spellers, but they learn to apply scientific reasoning and approach language the way linguists do. Soon, you not only have a classroom full of lifelong spellers, but you will have contributed to your students' lifelong interest in words and their origins as well.